Welcome back to the podcast, guys. Today we are joined by Amadev, founder of Apiatech, who is an engineering and technology leader. Today he's about to reveal lots of unique insights with us. So let's see where it goes. So Amadev, thanks for joining with us and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope we can share useful information to your listeners.
Amazing, amazing, Amadev. Thanks for joining again. So I would like to hear from you first. Why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do and what's going on? Just give an idea about to our audience.
Okay, so let's start like this then. I am a software engineer per definition. I started my career over than 25 years ago working with computers, and I don't know if I'm proud to say or not, but I started before even internet was a thing.
Right.
Right now, I am living in the United States for the past 11 years, working, leading IT teams, IT departments, actually, not only IT teams, with a very hard focus on software engineering and team performance improvement. Those are things that are very strong on my portfolio and things that I have been very successful for the past few years and things that I have a little knowledge and I am able to share with everyone else.
Right, right. Perfect. So actually I'm trying to figure it out that like can you just explain what's engineering leadership actually look like at scale? So so our audience will get get some idea about that. I think that would be a great starting point before we delve dive, right?
So, Hans, that's a very good question, and I'm very happy that you asked it. Today, engineering is changing a lot because AI. Okay, one problem I see with that, people tends to think that adding a new tool will solve all problems on a team that's not maybe performing well or where they're trying to scale or to increase the output of the team. I believe engineering is something that we have to look in several aspects at the same time, not only improving tools. You have to understand the whole process since where a request comes into the team, how you're going to handle that request, how the scope is written, how the problem is broke down, how the developer will approach that, how you're going to test that thing, how you're going to validate that software, and then deliver a proper product on the end. Again, business leaders today are thinking, okay, let's bring AI and AI will solve everything. The way I see that will not. The way I see that, if you just bring AI, if you just bring like support tools to help the developer perform faster, especially if you are using a concept of AI first development, that's going to bring more problems a long time on the long and short term than you can hope for. Every software needs to have a very tight and specific database, a
Mm,
very tight specific core. If you are writing code that are creating data that is a touch and core of a system, and you don't have a proper view of that whole, you're gonna have a problem. Maybe not in a short term. Maybe you're gonna have a running product in a short term, but on a long term, that can cause like devastating problems that's gonna cost you thousands and thousands of dollars to fix.
mm.
Other problem I see, and that's like getting out of AI a little bit. The majority of the companies I work for or I help them improve their delivery, they come to me saying, okay, I have a problem on my team. Maybe I have a bad developer. Maybe I have like a problem on my flow. And usually they never have only one problem. It's a conjunction of small problems along the process that makes things bad. And if you fix
Perfect.
just one small piece of that, you're going to still have a problem. You'll never be performing well. So you have to see the entire process since intake until delivery, even after delivery, like on the product warranty period, and understand that whole flow in order to improve a team performance.
Perfect.
Again, on my experience, most of the times the problem is not on the development itself, but it's like before it even reaches the development. On the last company I work, I was able to improve productivity on the team to around 88% with the same health count. This is huge. This is great. And you're gonna ask me, oh, but you're very smart. No, I'm not. Oh, you did something amazing. No, I didn't. I went after the basics, small, really small piece of problems that I were like solving and taking care little by little until we had that whole thing squared out. And that was like an amazing accomplishment that didn't take a genius to fix. It's just
Mm.
someone that care for the details.
Perfect, perfect. So amazing. So I do have two follow-up questions on your recent thoughts. So first, I want to hear from you is that do you use any specific framework to figure out those problems? Like when you meet a, let's say, a client meet you or a business leader meet you, and they tells you that I want to build this much of system. So therefore, do you use any specific like methodology to figure out their problems, or like is there any specific framework, or maybe it's your framework? Do you use something like that to figure it out, the problem first?
Yes and no. And let me explain you this a little bit better. There is no out of the box framework on the market that I can use to do that type of improvement. What I did is develop my own way of doing this. First and foremost, because each company has a different reality. One company, the biggest problem might be on the intake. The second one might be on the output. The other one might be on the QA. So what I did, I developed a proper way of work, and you can call that a framework that I try to map the whole process, the whole software development process since conception until after deployment. And I start like breaking those down in steps depending on the company I am working off. And I gonna use each of one of those pieces as my attack points, right? I'm gonna see the intake, I'm gonna see the scoping, I'm gonna see everything into small pieces. But again, that will depend on the company, on the problem that is reported. Most of the times, the problems are common. They are like the same problem you see on one company, you see on another, you see on another, you see on another. But you have to have an open mind and understand that you have to be flexible. If you try to use a framework or create a standard method, you're gonna fail because you're gonna miss stuff.
And at a point, I noticed that you said that people first, right? You said that people first. So why did you say that? Was there a particular reason you said that?
Yes,
Like,
there you
yeah.
there is. Let's start with a fun fact. Several years ago, I started working with IT. Actually, I went to study IT because I thought, okay, I'm gonna be working with IT. I don't have to handle people. I'm gonna be working with computers, and that's it. My life is like good. Because back in the days, I believed I wasn't a people person. But going to work with IT taught me that I was completely wrong. You know what? Building a software, writing a good code is easy. The hard part is the human component on that. You have to handle stakeholders, you have to handle clients, you have to handle human all over. And those are the hard ones because they don't have a framework, they don't have a manual how to read them, they don't come with on-off switch, and you
Yeah.
cannot mold the output that the human put out. So I have to understand how to handle people. I have to learn how to deal with people along my career. And that taught me a lot of useful things that today bring me like strengths in how to work. So people first, when I mention people first, the first thing I do when I join or I am helping a new team, I'm gonna try to know each and every single person on that team. Know their strengths, know their weakest points. The second thing I'm gonna do is build a development plan for them, try to help off with the weakest points and also exploring the strongest skills they have. And doing that, I'm only looking at people. I'm not looking at systems. I'm not looking at processes. I'm not looking at engineers. So the first thing I'm going to do is handle the people. And that's why I say people first. Once I get to know the lay of the land on the people side, then I'm going to start working processes, architecture, engineering, and everything else.
Perfect, perfect. I think now we came to the right place to talk about some in depth about leadership. So, okay, so sometimes this might be a bit weird, but could you please let me know the truth? So, like, what do you think about leadership? Can we develop like by reading books, or maybe attending for some trainings, or we should take some practical stuff to develop that? Like how did you find out that right? I can handle a team, and I have that confidence. So how, like how can we understand that right? I do have that skill. Like is there a specific maybe blueprint or framework that we could use to find that right? Yes, I'm capable to handle this type of stuff. So I'm capable to get a leadership, maybe something like that. So what do you think about that?
So, just to confirm, you're asking me if leadership can be taught
Yeah,
or if
of
it's something that person is born
yeah,
with.
yeah.
No, 100% I believe leadership can be taught, and I am the perfect example of that. As I do on the beginning, another question behind. I was avert of people. I hated to have to talk to people. Can you imagine a leader that does not like to talk? It would be like a disaster. So
Hmm.
yes, it's something that you can develop. It's something that you can teach, but like several skills in life, every other skill, some people has a knack to it. Some people already has like a starting point, but I believe
Hmm.
everything can be developed. In my case, I had some tricks. The first one of the tricks, like I was awful speaking public. So what I did, I started like teaching classes. That was one of the most beautiful things I did in my life. I started off from college, talked to the people, to the directors, and hey, I need to like share my knowledge. I didn't tell them what I want to do, but I said, I want to share my knowledge. I am very good on software development, so I want to help my colleagues. Can you guys give me on the afternoon a classroom where I can like teach the people for free? And they go, yeah, of course. We're gonna give you a mentoring thing. And I had like this for years, going on for years. That helped me with my speech problems because I was very, 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 very shy. Then, very young still, I used to work with my company family, my family's company, and my dad was a very smart person. He had like a way of handling people very impressive. And he taught me a lot also, and he put me on the fire. Okay, so here's a team. You're gonna handle this team here. What wasn't software development at all? It was a hotel, and he gave me just a small team for me to start developing my skills. That was very important as well. Reading is really important. You have to read a lot, and you have also to start acknowledging your weaknesses. Right. The moment you start acknowledging where you have to improve, you're gonna start improving. And for some
Perfect.
people, it's hard. For me, it was very hard. Looking in the mirror and say, okay, I'm not good at that. I'm gonna get good.
Hmm. Perfect. Perfect. So I saw a great quote which says that great power comes from great responsibility. Am I right? So
Oh yeah, Spider-Man
yeah,
is awesome.
yeah. So, and also, I would like to hear from you that how important that being able to get the responsibility and be accountable and also taking ownership. So, how important those when it comes to, let's say, if we run a huge team, when it comes to leadership, how important those like accountability, taking ownership and responsibility, how important those are.
Okay. So I believe the first thing you have to have in mind, giving giving first the Spider-Man phrase, what I believe is amazing, and the ownership is the following. Making a mistake is not a problem. Making a mistake is part of your life. What differentiates people is what they do with a mistake, right? Some people get, "Oh, I made a mistake. Oh my God, my life's gonna end and everything is bad. I cannot handle this, blah, 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 blah." That person will fail very soon because it's not taking the good part of the mistake. And the good part of the mistake, what is? It's teaching you something. There is one phrase that I use for sometimes when I'm presenting myself, and it's very funny because it talks straight to that. I like to say like this. Okay, so my name is Amadeo. I am a professional with over 25 years of experience. And you guys know what that means? That means I made a lot of mistakes along of my career, and I may not know the right way of doing some stuff, but I know what not to do. What that means, that mistakes are something good if you know how to handle them them internally. Second thing about responsibility is it has to come natural. You cannot have a problem taking ownership of a mistake that your team makes, for example. On my last job, every time there was a problem, every time a system broke, every time something went wrong, and I was discussing with the leadership of the company that problem, I would say, okay, that was my mistake, and I'm working on safety precautions so that does not happen anymore. Sometimes was a developer that wasn't feeling well or had a problem with his wife and wrote wrote the wrong code, and I always take ownership of those problems because by the end of the day, if my team makes a mistake, it's my responsibility. It doesn't matter who made it, right? And
Mm,
I'm not like the type of leader that's gonna put his teammate on the fight on the fire to take his out of the line. So I did that a lot. The second part that is important, if there is an accomplished something good that the team did, that's a team win, not me. If you take my AI software, an AI dialer that I built last year was a huge success. Everyone on the company was amazed, and people come to me to congratulate me. And I said, "Oh no, stop, stop! Let's not do that. Let's have a proper meeting with the team that was involved because they deserve the congrats. They were the ones doing everything. You know what I'm saying? Kind. If you have to have that balance, if it's a team problem, it's your problem. If it's a team accomplishment, it's a team accomplishment. I believe that
amazing.
is the biggest part of being a good leader. People have to look to you, look up to you and respect. And at the same time, people around your gravity center, other departments, other stakeholders, they have to trust you as well, like your team. So by having that type of commitment, you're going to build trust internally and externally. Externally, because everyone knows where to go. Internally, because the developers will feel free and comfortable coming to you. Hey, I made a mistake. Can we solve? Can you help me solve? Can we do that? With that type of attitude, you're gonna be ahead of several problems that very often or in other situations would surface only on a production system.
Hmm, perfect. So you mentioned about the trust. Like, how can we earn that trust? Like, can we earn that trust by showing the right directions to our team, or like, like in your leadership careers, like how did you earn that trust from your team?
Well, every time I'm talking to a team member, and that is like on every single conversations I have to them with them. I do not set the direction. I do not say what they have to do, but instead I like to ask questions that will lead them to figure out the answer by themselves. And that is in every single situation I have with the team. Why? When I'm doing that, I'm not only solving a problem, right? But I'm also helping that team member or the whole team get better in several aspects. If you give a proper answer, you are not helping them to grow, and a leader has to be worried about their teammates growing. That is so true. When I left my last job, I was able to nominate 5 people on the team to replace me. And I told the leadership, okay, guys, I'm leaving. I have to take care of my health and everything else, but I'm leaving you with 5 key persons. Just do not let them go, and you guys should be good without me with no problems. And that was very true. They are still there. They are now leaders, and they are like sharing the responsibility for the whole department, each one of on their areas, but they are having meetings and talking to each other. Sometimes they call me, they consult with me, and I'm more than happy to help. But most of the time, actually 99% of the time, they are handling the problems by themselves. And they were not able to do that 3 or some years ago. I grew them, I like groomed them to become the next generation of leaders.
Amazing. So have you ever gone through some most toughest situation where you feel like it's gonna be hard? I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. Like, have you gone through that type of circumstances when you handle a huge team? So if so, how did you handle that particular circumstances?
Okay.
If you have any particular story, we would like to hear if it's possible.
Okay. So the question is regarding myself or regarding the team?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's yourself. Like some difficult times when you were
Yeah.
handling some teams. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So more often than I care to remember, I saw myself on that situation. And that is almost like a job description for a leader in the IT area, right? We are talking about new technologies every single day. Very recently, we have AI. So 3 years ago, if you asked me about AI, I would like laugh at you and say, there's no AI. People are faking AI. And that was true 3 years ago. It's not true anymore. Things evolve. But yeah, I saw myself on that type of situation several times. And I believe the best way is seek for help, seek out for help, right? I don't have a problem approaching anyone and say, hey, I see you already handle a similar problem. Can you help me with that? If I have to pay, I'm gonna pay you. It's not a problem, but I need help. And asking for help is not a shame. It's actually a very honorable thing to do. So I always ask for help. I had one last year that I had no one or nowhere to ask help because we were building a product that didn't exist on the market. It was a brand new thing. Nobody had done that before. And that one I had to learn a lot and bang my head over the wall several times, get together with my team, discuss. We had several meetings, and by the end of the day, we were able to put out. And I'm talking again about the AI dialect. What we created an AI voice agent that would call the customers, talk, discuss, and if there was interest on buying any of the company products, they would transfer the call to a video agent. That didn't exist when we created. I risk to say we were one of the first ones that released that type of product and was very hard on the beginning, but we were successful. Just like having several meetings, conversations, testing, trying to figure out how, and ultimately asking for help on specific points that we didn't know how to do.
Perfect. So which mean we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Am I right? So if somebody solve that problem, so we could meet them and then have some bit chit chat and then solve the problem. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, if I see someone that already went through that same type of problem, I'm gonna go after that person, that company, whatever, and ask for help.
Yeah.
If there is no other similar situation, then I'm gonna try to figure it out.
Perfect. Perfect. Amazing. Amazing. So now I would like to talk about some AI stuff. I mean, you have been telling for a long time now in our podcast. So let's talk about that. So this is my personal view. I think now we are transitioning from one agent to agentic, multiple agentic orchestration, I would say. Am I right or
Yes.
wrong? So
No, you are right.
yeah, yeah. So because I because for instance, let's say if I give any responsibility to one agent, so if that one agent can handle that particular task, so then I will not be able to get that final output. But when it comes to having multiple agents, if I give that particular task, if one agent cannot handle that particular task, I don't have to worry because other agents can handle those tasks and ultimately give that final output to me. So what do you think about that? So are we heading to that agentic orchestration stuff? I mean, multiple agents. What do you think?
Yeah, the we ran into this last year even, and I find that the concept to solve the problem is very similar to the microservices one for Azure.
Hmm.
It's very, very similar to microservices. You have like very specific small agents that do small tasks, and you create an orchestration layer that will pretty much coordinate the data flow between those agents. So you have a task that's executed here, you receive that data, you push to the next agent, it does whatever have to do, you receive that back, your orchestration level will decide with what to do, if it's ready to go to a database or it has to go to another agent. So it's very, 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 very similar to a microservices concept. You have very specific agents doing very specific tasks. And actually, in my point of view, that's a very smart way of approaching AI.
Amazing, amazing. Right. So have you ever done this type of stuff like maybe deploying some agentic orchestration into particular
Yes,
system?
we did this very recently. We had probably two or three agents
Okay.
working in conjunction, and we had an orchestration layer on the middle that was controlling that flow, and that's why I was telling you that it's very similar in my way of seeing of a microservices concept.
Right, right. So this is one of my personal experience that I experienced recently, that avoiding the architecture part and directly jump to develop the specific solution, right? So I think you were talking about one of your recent LinkedIn posts that let me assimilate that part. So you mentioned that like this. Let me say that in the end, scaling system is really about a single technology. It's about architecture, operational discipline, and the engineering team behind it. So I think you are talking about the importance of the architecture first, if I'm correct. So could you please elaborate on that?
Sure. That goes back to my answer on how I see a team, right? How I fix actually the performance on a team. Let's get this example here. You have a system and you have like several developers doing maintenance on that system. Every time there's something broken, every time there is one thing that's off, there is a process that does not work. What that tells me that I have developers doing work of maintenance instead of being focused on building new stuff. So what's my take? I don't have a performance problem. I have an architecture problem. I have to fix that system in order to free my developers. I went exactly to this problem a few years ago. We had a very huge travel sales platform, and that thing was massive. Every time we needed to do a change was a nightmare. And that change usually would break something else on the process ahead of that. To make things worse, that's supposed to be a system that worked more or less like a white label. We were like renting that system to other companies to use it. So every new change, I had to deploy 20 some new softwares in production, right? And sometimes one of the 20 or two of the 20 would break and the other 18 would still work fine. That consumed a lot, a huge amount of time from the development team. What I did, I redid the whole platform, consolidated into one single software that had a configuration layer, and based on the client that was accessing, it would bring up that configuration. By doing that, I reduced alone like hundreds and hundreds of hours of development a month. That type of approach tells me, okay, so I have a performance problem. I have like 3, 4, 5 developers doing maintenance on one single platform. Once I changed the platform, I evaluate the architecture, we did some parts of the platform. That number became to one developer handling that same type of work. I improved the performance of the team, yes, but I didn't change anything with the team. I was only looking to architecture. Make sense?
Perfect, perfect. It was a perfect answer for that because I do have some personal experience on that because I'm gonna be honest, I was not coming from IT background, but I was trying to build some system by my own. But at the beginning, I didn't know much about the architectures. For instance, like we need to first focus for the architecture and then based on that, we have to build the solution. So I didn't know about that at that time. So I was trying to jump to the solution directly, like to make maybe to do the wipe coding or whatever, something like that. So I did that mistake multiple times. Yeah. So thanks for sharing about that. Amazing. So Amaru, like, do you have any specific, like, I would say, like, how do you arrange that architecture? Do you use any internal software to arrange architecture, or do you use a just a book and then do your notes and then get them into a digital platform? Like, how do you do that? How do you plan a system?
How do I plan a system? That's a good one. All right. So there's like a few different ways to do that, and all depending on the type of requirement. This one, for example, I just mentioned on the last question. This one, it was a system that already existed. People were already using. So I have a clear picture on the requirements. What the
Hmm.
system had to do, or the system did not need to do. So that one was like pretty much all done internally on IT with the developers, the engineers, and the managers. We discussed, we recreated the scope and developed that. There are brand new systems. Brand new systems, I believe the most important input you can find is the end user, not their bosses, not their managers, the end users by themselves, what they expected from the system. Because by the end of the day, if you listen only the managers, only the leaders, they're gonna give you their point of view, but most of the times the managers, the leaders will not be using that system every day. So we have an issue scope, you get that niche scope and you start talking to the end users, getting inputs from them. happened with me more than once that I had to go back to the leader. Hey, I have this request from you. You are requesting a system to do A, B, and C. I spoke with your team members and they're telling me B and C is not needed. B and C is something that you guys do not do. So let's talk this through and maybe we can improve the system, blah, blah, blah. And then the manager, oh, but that's something I want to implement. I want to start doing that. Okay, so let's think this through. Let's like straighten up the path because we might develop something and getting on the end user they will not use. So let's plan on a training. Let's plan on showing the advantage on that. After you get that feedback from the users and you get the sign off from the requester, then you are good to start. And I can name to you like several different ways of doing this. The thing is, you have to be flexible and sensible at the same time and know how to adapt your behavior depending on the type of request you're receiving. And there is actually no cake recipe on how to do that. You have to really be sensible and adapt yourself every time.
Perfect. No recipe. We have to be adaptable about that. Perfect. I love that. I love that. I think I couldn't. I forgot to ask about your company. I think Apia Tech, right? So are there any specific plans for this year for your company? Like you could like you don't have to share specific information, but like are there any specific news is about to reveal or something like that?
Actually, not much. Let me tell you a little bit about the Apple so you understand. The Apple I opened up when I first came to US 11 years ago because I was always an entrepreneur back in Brazil. I had my own software development company also in Brazil, and I felt like I needed to have a company here. So I opened it via app. I started like selling some products. I hired some people to help me here in US, and I was also working on vacation innovations full time. I developed the app until to a point that I hand over the day-to-day business to partners so I can focus on my career. And the app right now has some projects out there with a few
Mhm.
customers. And also we are doing staffing. We are providing a nearshore manpower for companies here in US that wants to pay a little less. So those are the two things that the app is like more focused right now. It's consultancy and also staffing. But I am actually, in reality, I'm not handling day-to-day business anymore there. I'm just like participating as an owner and collecting the profits by the end of the year, which is great.
Perfect, perfect. So, Amadeo, for the people listening who want to check you out and connect with you, so where they can go, how they can find you?
So the best way would be LinkedIn. It's my professional hub. I don't know if you can share on the video or
Sure,
on the
sure.
post.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, sharing my LinkedIn line is the best way. I'm like constantly there. I like to be in contact with people. I like to talk to people like you, like yourself, and people in the IT area, have a smart conversation, exchange ideas, grow a little bit, and that is like amazing. And I'm open to anyone that wants to share also knowledge with me. I'm more than happy to receive knowledge every time.
Amazing, amazing. So, thank you for joining with us, Amadeo. Really appreciate your time, and definitely I'll add some links in our description. So anybody who wants to connect with Amadeo, so you guys can connect. So, thank you so much, Amadeo, and really appreciate your time again. So, thank you guys. So we'll join in the next episode. Until then, live with this spirit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Nice to meet you, Hans.